Not as good as Rashan, though. Pretty exciting time for him. What's it mean, not just for him, but the team as a whole, to see him rewarded?
Yeah, it's great to get that taken care of. Obviously, it's well-deserved, and he's earned everything. And like I told the team, I'm a big believer in people that approach it the right way, that are talented, that come to work with the mindset and determination that he possesses. And he's a tone setter, so I'm really happy for him. I'm happy for our organization. I think, it's good to kind of put that to bed.
He's 1 week shy from tearing the thing. When did you kind of realize that this guy might be back and be able to contribute the way he has?
What do you mean 1 week?
When did you first kind of realize that he was really on track to kill that rehab and get back?
Oh, I just know how we've seen him for how many years now? 4 years plus, and how he attacks everything. So I knew from the moment. Obviously, he was extremely disappointed in that moment because it means a lot to him, and he knows he can help our football team. But just from that time on, when it went down the next day, I could see he's a determined young man. And it's not a shock to me, and I think everybody here that sees him on a daily basis, that he was able to recover from that.
Matt, you said last night you thought you had 6 drops. What did the film show? How many did you actually have?
Well, we're pretty hard on some of those guys in terms of whether or not it's a catchable ball, or but we actually had more than that. Some of those were contested, and I know that there were like some 50-50 balls where, give them credit, they made plays on the ball, but we just have that expectation and we need that mentality that when the ball is in the air, that it's our ball.
Have you thought about any kind of shaking up in terms of assignments, or with your coaching staff, or in terms of bringing in somebody who could just give you, an overview of what's going on, a veteran coach or anything like that to try to figure out what's going on offense?
Yeah, we're going to shake some things up in terms of our process, our weekly rhythm, and how we operate Wednesday through Saturday, to try to get this thing going a little bit quicker, to make sure that we're extremely intentional and deliberate and about just there's a limited amount of reps that go throughout the course of the week in terms of practice, and then you got your walkthroughs, and just trying to be a little bit more intentional and making sure that we're giving our guys what they need in order to go out there and play fast and execute at a higher level. So those are kind of more along the changes that we're making moving forward.
Like practice structure is what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about just meeting structure to not as much the practices. I'm a big believer in kind of how we manage that workload, but just how we install, being more deliberate with our walkthrough reps and what we're presenting our guys, and as well as the practice reps. I think that's really what it comes down to, making sure that these guys get the looks that they need in order to go out there and execute at a high level.
Matt, I know you don't want to get into the youth, but when you draft players, you're drafting off of projection. The idea is that what they are year 1 is maybe not what it's going to be year 3. When you see the film, how much of this are you seeing potential and developmental potential of things like attacking the football in the air? Does that come over time, which they haven't had yet, or is there other things that are more concerning?
I think there's a lot of things that, first of all, I think we all can see that it's a talented group. We just got to make sure that we get everybody on the same page, and you just can't have. It seems like every play that we're out there, something happens. Somebody makes a mistake, and it sets everything back. Whether it's a penalty, whether it was a drop, whether it's not thrown on time, maybe missing a block. It just there's so many little detail. It's more the detail, I would say. Even when we have an explosive gain, like I showed those guys today, we hit Reed for I don't know how many yards on that seam route, and it was single high. And the way we teach seams, one high versus two high, is totally different. When it's single high, we expect those seam route runners to get to the inside edge of the numbers, because you really want to disperse the field and put that middle third safety in a bind. We're running right down what we call the split, so the area between the numbers and the hash on both sides. And it just condenses everything. Now, it was a successful play, and I know we are, in the results business. However, our process wasn't right. So I think over time, that's going to lead to more poor results than it will be for one successful play. So it's all those little details that are so important that, in my mind, really separate good from great in this league.
I would assume that you figured some of these mistakes are going to happen early in the year. Now that you're 7 weeks in, was the assumption that a bunch of this stuff you're not going to be perfect?
I never assume anything.
Okay.
I take it one day at a time, and we focus on what's right in front of us. And you can't assume anything. And you just got to try to continue to grind and improve. Mistakes are part of this game. They are. And right now, we're not at a point where we're good enough to overcome some of these mistakes. It gets compounded, and we put ourselves in some bad situations. Had a lot of third and longs on the offensive side of the ball that are extremely difficult to convert, and we didn't. And so, but as far as the assumptions, I didn't have any.
Okay, never mind the assumptions part. Now you're 7 games in, should some of this stuff be cleared up again? You're going to have some, but should a bunch of this stuff not be an issue anymore?
Well, you'd like it not to be, certainly, but obviously we're not there yet.
So Matt, does a veteran wide receiver run that route more precisely? Yes or no? The one you're talking
Depends on the guy.
Most of the veterans that you've had.
Yeah, I think they're able to recognize maybe sometimes the shell. I mean, you got to give Minnesota a lot of credit in terms of they've got one of the best safeties that I've ever witnessed in my time in the National Football League in Harrison Smith, and how he plays different looks and gives you different, he'll show one thing, play another. So I do think it presents some challenges on the offense. I think that particular example, a lot of times when teams play single high defense, a lot of times the nickel will be outside leverage on whoever your slot receiver is. And he was inside leverage. So I think a lot of times the wideouts, usually when they're inside leverage, they're going to play a too high shell. Well, some teams call what we call buzz reroute, where they align inside and they try to reroute the receiver on their way to playing the flat. And so I think it's just more these guys experience in different looks and being able to respond to those looks in order to be a little bit more precise with our routes. So it is a process. There was a lot of things that we recognized that were very good, but that was just one example I was trying to give to you guys in terms of just the level of detail that we need really on every play, be a good result or a bad result.
So I get that. And the reason why I then took your example is because, so yesterday I asked you about youthful mistakes. You said, we're done playing that game, right? And then clearly, I'm guessing, you had some similar message to your team because 2 different veteran guys brought up how Kenneth Odumegwu is the only one who gets to use youth as an excuse. Did you say that to them?
I did not.
Okay, so did you message them on the idea of youth is no longer an excuse around here, or no?
No, I didn't say anything. But I really have not brought that up in front of our team. I think even from day one, it's just it's our circumstance. It is what it is, and the expectation is whoever's wearing that G on the side of their helmet that's out on the field is that we go execute at a championship level, and we're not there.
So then when you said that yesterday in your press conference, I guess I'm asking, do you think it's important to make it clear now that we're past the point, even though it sucks, and even though that's another example of even a good play where a young guy makes doesn't do it quite the right way, that you guys have to, you just have to pretend that this is not the youth is not an issue?
Yeah, I'm more interested in focusing on all the aspects that we have complete control over. And that is just making those incremental improvements each and every day and trying to get a little more detailed, trying to get everybody on the same page, try to avoid some of those mistakes that we've been making, in order to put a product out there that's fun to watch and gives people a reason to cheer. I mean, it's tough being in your own stadium and you go 4 possessions in a row that are 3 and out. Like that sucks. That's not fun. And I felt the frustration from our guys, and you know, it's hard not to be frustrated because I think everybody expects more out of themselves, out of each other, and just like I expect more of myself.
Do you need Brian to add to this roster at some point here soon to?
I'm really not. That's not even a part of my thinking. My thinking is all about just how do we get our guys to feel confident about what they're doing, going out there, playing fast, playing decisively, and executing.
Where are you at with who's going to play left tackle for you after what Yash gave you yesterday?
That's going to be up for discussion, I would say, this week.
How did the mishap on the goal line occur where the nose tackle gets left free to make the play on the goal line?
Yeah, well, we were in a dive. We ran a dive. It wasn't, the guy swam and made a good play.
So it's a physical play, it wasn't,
Yeah, that was not a mental error. That was whether you want to call it bad execution or bad scheme, have at it.
You know, at the end, and I realized that the Vikings weren't blitzing at the end either, but it looked like Jordan was moving around the pocket a little bit more, you know, moving away from the pressure. Is that something you'd like to see more of, or was that just circumstance because they're kind of playing soft at that point?
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, the whole moving in the pocket, that's such a feel thing. I think our focus is going to be on just making sure that we're going out there, making the right decisions on time and playing with great fundamentals. And I do think that when you get in some situations where the game starts to get a little lopsided and you're in this 2-minute hurry-up mode, a lot of times your fundamentals can kind of go out the window. You know, it's more like, I don't want to call it like street ball, but it tends to go that way. Why? I don't know. It's a crazy phenomenon that we talked about today. And we're always going to coach the guys, you know, I don't know how to articulate this, but just how to play it perfectly every play in terms of the footwork, the timing. One hit you're going here, second hit you're going there. But at the same time, I don't want to make these guys robotic, especially the quarterback. So there's a level of feel to that, and you know, it's just he's got to take the coaching and then in real time kind of use it how he feels that he can go out there and give us the best chance to execute plays.
Do those street ball situations have a tendency of softening up the defense? And the reason why I ask is because it's as empty as the first halves have been, it's every week late in games you guys are getting something generated on offense. Is that a byproduct of that, or why have you been able to kind of close the way you have?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's a level of urgency to how you're operating offensively when you're getting into those 2-minute modes. And certainly I think any time a team has a 2-score lead on you, the tendency is to play a little bit softer, and so you can get some easier throws at times. And just basically not trying to give up the deep plays. And yet we still had some opportunities down the field that we didn't connect on, that we were just a little off. And hopefully we can not be in those situations first and foremost. But if we are, we need to be able to connect on some of those plays.
Matt, I asked you yesterday if Jordan was having some indecisive equals ineffective moments, and you said you had to look at the tape. Jordan said he definitely is, and that's somewhere he's got to be better. What did you see when you watched it, and what does he need to do to get back to kind of being decisive?
Yeah, I think once we got to the fourth quarter, we saw probably a little bit of that, where they're playing soft and just begging you to take the check down. And I know we all want to generate those big explosive plays, but sometimes you got to earn them, and you got to be willing to take the completions and move the sticks before you can get the defense to kind of play it a little bit tighter, where you can potentially get some of those shots down the field. So, you know, I do think there was a lot of good things he did as well. So it's just, can we get everybody on the same page collectively doing a better job so we can move the sticks? I mean, it's tough. Like I said earlier, I mean, those first 4 series of the game, you're going 3 and out. You don't even give yourself a chance to kind of get into the flow and rhythm of a game. And we've got to find a way to start faster, move the sticks, to get more plays. I mean, you don't even get to the flow of your offense when you think about, I want to say there was 14 plays after the first 4 drives. And a bunch of those were because of the penalties and whatnot. I think we had that short yardage play where we got called for an illegal man downfield. Then they jumped off sides. We had a free play, and we had another short yardage play. So a lot of those are third downs, and it's the third down offense. It's just like when you game plan. You game plan for red zone, you game plan for third down, and then you've got your first and second down game plan. And it'd be nice to get into the rhythm of a first and second down offense, which we can get more runs called. You can get Aaron Jones the ball a little bit more, which is always usually a pretty good thing for us. But then when you get down in games and you're down, was it 24-3 in the third quarter? Now that whole game plan goes out the window. Now you're in your 2-minute game plan. So it's how do you keep the games close, so you can get in some sort of rhythm on offense.
So is that first drive the most, like, was the illegal downfield penalty, was that an accurate call?
Yeah, it was.
So, because that erases a 20-yard gain by Romeo, right?
Yeah.
And then.
Well, the play went off schedule, so.
So that's how he gets down. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But then you have 3rd and 1, and it looks like you just don't block the guy that comes.
Yeah, that was a poor play call. So I don't put that on our guys. That was a communication error, and that's on me.
Now, what percent, I assume your 2-minute stuff is game planned against what the Vikings do? It's not just you have these 2-minute plays, is that right? You know, it's what you had worked on during the week versus the
Yeah,
Vikings.
some is, you know, stays pretty consistent, and I think that's pretty true of a lot of offenses. Is just what are you going to call? I mean, obviously, you're calling plays to attack certain coverages, and you're getting a feel for what they want to play, and you know, so.
So what percent does that limit you to when you're in 2 minutes? So is that like 10% of your game plan, and you're stuck with doing
Well, it's hard to
10%?
put a percentage on it, but it's definitely a different menu, I'd say, where you're more stagnant. You're trying to go operate fast. You just want to put pressure on the defense in that regard. You want to, obviously, time is of the essence, so you want to save the time. We did slip in some runs, you know, here and there to try to keep it honest, and maybe you break one inside. But yeah, I would say it's a different style of offense for sure.
Last week you spoke very highly of Kirk. I just wondered if you had any thoughts on the tough news today.
Yeah, it's a bummer. You never want to see great players in this league get hurt, and he's somebody that, you know, I have a personal relationship with, and somebody that I really care about. And although we're competing against one another, you never want to see something like that happen to somebody. So I don't think it's not a positive for anybody. And you know, I certainly saw him after the game and wished him well, and he was in surprisingly pretty good spirits, probably a lot better than I would have been. And but I think that just tells you what kind of guy he is, and he's a resilient dude, and I just wish him a speedy recovery.
We've been at this for about 20 minutes, and you've talked about this problem and that problem and all the problems. Are you able to have a good, solid, big picture view of Jordan, like an evaluation of him? Or is there just so much stuff going on that it's just hard for you to?
Yeah, I think in order to do that, I think everybody's got to play better around him, quite frankly. Are there some things he can do better? Absolutely. I think he'd be the first to tell you. And are there some things that we can do as a staff to help our guys? Absolutely. And then when there are plays there to be made, we got to make the plays.
Matt, there were like times in the 90s around here, if there was a bad game, players would say they would come in scared of getting, chewed out by the coaches. I don't know what you're like behind closed doors, but does that work anymore, or do you do that, or is that something that just doesn't work with this?
Yeah, I'm always going to be me, and I'm going to try to keep it real with everybody, and here's what the tape says. It is what it is. And after every game, you have an opportunity to learn from it, both the good and the bad. And that's what we need to do. And as tough as it is, it's hard. It is hard to go through this. I mean, there's a lot of time, effort, energy put into this thing. And everything's under a microscope, which is, it's great. It's great. There's a lot of fanfare and love for the game of football. But it does test you. It tests your mental toughness. But just like I told the team, I think I told you guys yesterday maybe. When I was in Washington, Mike Shanahan used to say it all the time. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. And so we got a challenge in front of us, and we're going to find out who are the tough guys on our team and within our organization, on our coaching staff. We're going to see what we're all about.
So what's your coping mechanism? Do you just grind more, or?
Pretty much. I mean, get back to we've already watched a game and a half on the Rams, and to me, that's the way you got to approach it. You got to try to learn from your mistakes, what went right, what didn't go so right, why didn't it go the way you wanted to go, and try to learn and evolve and get another game plan together and just keep pushing these guys to perform in practice, because I do believe that performance in practice can lead to greater results on game day. It just gives you that confidence that you can go out there and execute and play fast and decisively.
You guys typically don't make knee-jerk reactions to benching guys, when they're not playing well. Is that something you'll look at closer? Or?
I think we look at everything, just to try to kickstart this thing. And we have to play better in every phase of the game. We got to play more complementary, and we got to play better, because as bad as it felt like the first half had went, it was a 10-3 football game. And then they go down and have a 5.5-minute drive and score a touchdown, and then we get into a third down situation and throw an interception, give them a short field, and one play, it's now 24-3. So as bad as all that, and then I thought, there were some plays later in the game that gave us an opportunity, even as poorly as everything felt, to have a chance to even make it a one-possession game. Shoot, we recover a fumble on the 15-yard line or whatever it was, and our red zone offense was not very good.